It's a very tough plant, and you gotta do a few things to make it perfect. Hi everybody. So we're going to talk about a couple pet peeves I have as a grower. It's so common for growers to just overdo everything and push the plant so aggressively. And there's certain things that we can do to do that, like crop steering, frequent irrigation, letting the plant go to the edge of drying out, multiple feedings. There's lots of things that we can do to stress the plant and push the plant. But it's so common for people to use too much ppms in food. They end up burning the roots, damaging roots. They end up saying, you know, I want 50 plants in my 4x4 area under one of my lights, or 5x5 area. Less plants ultimately means a healthier plant, more space for that plant to grow. And I've never seen where plants don't take over the whole space. They always fill up the space regardless. So here, we literally have 8 plants per 4x4 area, okay? That's about 2 square feet per plant. If we were doing 2 square feet on a 4x8 table. On a 4x8 table, it's gonna be 32 square feet total. So I could have 32 plants and finish them at about a foot, foot and a half tall, and that'd be really good spacing. These guys are about 3 feet tall, and I'm running 8. That gives you an idea. It's such a common problem for people to overcrowd, and they can't put their hands in their plant. They can't work on their plants. They get mold issues. They get crowding issues. They get lack of light penetration, and they end up having to lollipop their plant a full 2 feet, and they might end up with just the top foot of flower because all they're growing is lumber down here. 2 things happen. The first thing is, as that plant matures, that stalk will become more and more woody. And on a younger plant, when it's green, it flows nutrients much faster. So it's gonna take those nutrients that are within the root zone and get them into the plant and use them much quicker than an old, mature plant. Second thing that happens is people that lollipop the bottom 2 feet of their plant, all you're doing is wasting 18 hours in veg. So if you had just flipped a week sooner or a little earlier, yeah, you'll end up with a much more squat plant, but you're only wanting that top 2 feet of that canopy. Some people are running such high dense plants that they're having to actually go the top foot of their canopy, and they've got 2 feet of lumber underneath. This is a major cost, mistake, and oversight on so many growers. So what I want to do is I want to be able to get my hands into the canopy. Okay? Next thing is, some plants are unruly, and it's really tough to have a perfectly level canopy. There's things that you can do. You can knuckle the plant. So if I find that this flower right here is a little bit too high, I can then take it, and it's basically like chiropractic, and you turn the plant a bit and bend it and drop it over. Now that stalk, providing you haven't used too much potassium silicate or monosilic acid, will bend and not snap. If you're using a lot of silica in your nutrient feeding program, that actually could break the stalk. Now what happens there is I've created a knuckle, and that knuckle stops the flow of hormones, it stops the flow of nutrients, or slows them down to the flower. And you'll see on this flower, for example, because this one was going up into the light, now I've got a flower growing sideways, and due to positive phototropism, is now growing back up towards the light. But I've got a knuckle here. So I was able to stop the vertical growth by manually changing that, and then having a whole bunch of nuggets growing up this way. We're about a month away from harvest. So this is gonna end up being a big chunky nugget, but I'm not gonna have issues because I can't reach my light anymore. I'm out of space, my lights are maxed out. When it comes to defoliating, it's a common problem where people just go in and strip the hell out of the plants. Now, taking a few fan leaves off here and there, doing a full defoliation a couple times over the life cycle of the plant, because they do get unruly, and you have to go in there, you have to clean up the canopy, and you have to rip off the odd leaf, right? Just pull it off, go in there, clean it up. One thing I recommend also with defoliating is if you're gonna use scissors, make sure you don't take your scissor from this plant to this plant without completely sterilizing that scissor between trimming from this plant to this plant. If this plant contains a virus, you've now transmitted it to the next plant. One of the reasons why I also don't like recirculating hydroponic systems anymore. I like drain to waste. So there's a lot of things you can do culturally and in practices that genuinely change the way this plant is gonna perform, gonna look, and it relates to the strain you're growing specifically. Every strain is gonna need something different. So knuckling the plant is not out of line. I mean, I don't mind going in. This may be extreme because it's a beautiful, beautiful nugget, but to go in, turn it, drop it over into an area that currently doesn't have any nugget underneath it, this wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. Now, I've got that flower not damaged. It's gonna come back, and by tomorrow, this thing will be up here, growing this way in an area that it wouldn't have been getting light. So it's all about canopy maintenance. It's all about less is more. Spacing is one of the most important things you'll ever do. Having a total of 12 plants on a 4x8 table is not out of line. 32, if you're growing a much more squat plant, by all means. But these guys that are doing, 50, 60 plants on a table, you're just increasing your workload, wasting a ton of power on 18 hours during veg, and you should be flipping a whole lot sooner. This is a very important tool. It's gonna save you time, energy, and money, and get you more crops in per year. And overall, healthier plants mean more profitability for you as a licensed producer. So, a couple tips, I hope that helps. Take care.